good stuff. What's up, folks? Son of Terra92 here, and welcome to my room. We're just chilling. It's quite late now, and I want to take some time to make a very short video because lately I've kind of been excited or kind of been swept up by the euphoria that has followed the recent Reason Rally event. That was a very important and significant step for the secular and rationalist community. And I'd also like to make this video as a follow-up to one of my blog articles. If you're not sure what I'm referring to, you can go ahead and check out this link right here. My Science Epic YT blog that I made as a supplement for my YouTube channel, of which I will also be making a lot more content in the near future. Anyway, I'd like to make this short video as a follow-up to one of my recent articles, an article that I hastily wrote after class, and it's about Richard Feynman and PDEs, my own abbreviation for partial differential equations. Now, I'm not going to go into that much. If you want to know more, you can go ahead and check the blog out. I recommend that you subscribe because I update it monthly. Anyway, let's get started. Now, I'd like to start with a little bit of poetic license, if you don't mind me. So, here goes. Throughout the course of human history, there have been many attempts by many different cultures and societies to make sense of the big questions, such as who are we, where do we come from, and where are we going? How did reality come to be? Now, most of these cultures, of which a majority of them have already faded into the obscurities of human history, most of these cultures eventually ended up producing descriptions of reality that are more or less not as accurate as the real thing. They aren't really on par to what nature really is. They produce interesting myths and stories that prove to be enjoyable reads. For example, you have the world carried on the back of a giant tortoise, and that tortoise on an even bigger tortoise, and its turtles all the way down. You have the universe coming into existence from a cosmic egg. And you have, for example, the one where the universe is formed after the cataclysmic battle between deities, or the sexual discourse between these deities. And you have one that still prevails today, which is the one that involves the first male, the first female, a garden, and a talking snake. I will not be getting into that. Now, these questions, these big questions, are ever more prevalent in today's society as they were towards the societies and civilizations of antiquity. Now, what does this have to do with Richard Feynman, partial differential equations, and all these creation myths? Now, you can look at reality from a great many different perspectives, depending on what kind of goggle you're wearing. And it's up to you to pick and choose what kind of goggle you're wearing. I'm just an educator. But personally, for me, I rally behind the method of looking at reality that is relatively new. It's absolutely the cruelest and probably the meanest towards human aspirations, ambitions, imaginations, and hopes. Why would I ever want to rally behind such a method if it's going to really kill my ambitions? Because it works, okay? And if it hasn't clicked yet, that method is science. What else would I be talking about? This is a science channel. I've got to talk about science. You see, when we try to use science as a way of building models of the physical world, what would happen is that scientists would make observations. They would take in these observations and record data. They would, in turn, look at the data, analyze it, try to build functions, try to build correlations, and they would try to mathematize this data, and then that's it. That is the depiction of the natural world in which scientists would consider to be accurate. Let me illustrate this in the form of a very short example. You could imagine a pleasant Sunday or Saturday night stroll under a clear and open sky full of stars. To majority of the human species, that would most likely translate into a view that looks like this, or maybe even this, depending on where you live. And that view translates into something very beautiful, into something that can be understood and appreciated by a majority of the human species, and probably mostly every human being that has ever lived in the history of our species. Now, that's what everyone sees, and probably our ancestors had to try to understand this in a way that it would aid them in their survival. And if they're to understand it, therefore they have to build an appreciation of it. That's why you and I both appreciate the view of a starry night. I mean, who doesn't? But to a select few individuals, that same picture might look like this or this. Alright, now let's clear that up. You've probably already noted that the first set of pictures is completely different from the second set. But yet, those two sets of pictures hold equally the same amount of beauty that can be appreciated by human beings. Now, I agree that to the average layperson, the second set of pictures may seem hard to understand, may seem elusive and esoteric in its true meaning. But I think the second set of pictures doesn't subtract from that natural feeling of resonance that you and I both have when we look at a starry night. Given that, yes, the second set of pictures does seem to have some sort of coded message in it, but that message has already been interpreted in terms of correlations between physical phenomena. It's all the same. When we look at something, we try to build a relationship, and this is how our ancestors survived, and if we are to survive into the coming age, this is how we're going to have to look at things from a very healthy and rational perspective. I think there is probably a much deeper and more important meaning that can be deciphered from both sets of pictures by anyone, regardless of their level of scientific literacy. I mean, at the very least, it should give us a sense of perspective. Even if you are not familiar with, say, Maxwell's equations or the heat equation or Schrödinger's equation, which is a partial differential equation with an imaginary component, but I'm getting ahead of myself. At the very least, it should give us a sense of perspective and humble us. I mean, look at us. Here we are. We are what happens when hydrogen, very simple molecule, is given billions of years to evolve. And yet, we come from that hydrogen. Now, we're looking back at hydrogen and helium. And I think that's really what amazes me about science. The most advantageous things of which it can give us, you might say, would be global communication or the extension of the human lifespan. But to me, I feel that some of the best benefits we can reap from science is just knowing who we are, just knowing where we are, and, getting closer to answering those questions of which our ancestors could have only dreamed of the solutions we have today. So regardless of whether you're walking under a starry night or trying to solve some partial differential equations, I think that there is a sense of serenity in doing these things. It's part of being human. And I don't really want to go on for any more longer than that. Thanks for joining me here, hanging out with Science Epic, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. That's colder than my ex's heart. I have an ex.